What's up, guys? VENMO TheArtistVersion1 here, and welcome back to another edition of Stories No One Asked For, the podcast. And if you don't know by now, about 4 years ago, I wrote a little book called, Stories No One Asked For. And upon numerous attempts of trying to write a follow-up, I think about 2.5, something like that, I just couldn't find the focus to do it. I think one time I got through it and abandoned it halfway through, and the other time I just could never start. I think I wrote the introduction for the book, and that was it. I figured, why not take those stories that I would use for another book and verbalize them, put them into a podcast form. It's a lot easier to do than sitting there writing and figuring out, little quips and everything to put into a book form. So that's what I do here on Stories No One Asked For, the podcast, and occasionally bring on guests to talk about the stories that you didn't ask for either. And tonight we're going to be doing something a little different. Still stories you didn't ask for, but it's something a little different. And we'll get into that there. But before we get into tonight's episode, let's give a great shout out to the people over at MoviesAreUSA.biz, which is a great website where you can head on over and find those hard to find TV shows and movies that have either never been released on physical media before or haven't been released on physical media in quite a long time. And just look at the stores lately. The physical media, it's dying. And I hate it. It's like watching an animal die on the side of the road and you can't do anything about it. But MoviesAreUSA.biz is a website that's keeping that alive. It's letting you get that physical disc in your hand so you can pop it in your DVD, your Blu-ray player, and continue to watch it, even though it's hard to find streaming shows that they don't release on DVD and Blu-ray, or just something that you haven't seen on physical media in a long time, And I use it all the time. Plus, they're a great sponsor of Stories No One Asked For, the podcast. And if you go on over to MoviesAreUSA.biz today, you can use my checkout code, that being artist, ARTIST, at checkout, and save yourself 50% on your checkout. Half off everything you get, man. And on top of all that, you're going to get free, that's right, free first class shipping on top of all that. But wait, there's more. Also, for the international listeners, the few international listeners that we do have, you're going to get free first-class international shipping as well. Plus, you can still use that checkout code, ARTIST, and save yourself 50% on your purchase. I just recently ordered the Iron Claw with Zac Efron, about the Von Erich family, being a big wrestling fan that I am. And I ordered the new Mean Girls movie, which is thus far one of my favorite movies this year. So, they have over 3,500 titles you can choose from. And if you look through all the 3,500 titles and you're like, they just don't have what I'm looking for, email him. He's more than happy to take a request to see if he can find it. He'll put it on Discord. You can still use that checkout code, still get that free shipping, and then you'll be able to get that favorite movie or TV show in your hand and have it forever. Don't have to worry about Netflix or Prime or Paramount or Max taking it off within a month. So it's a great website. Like I said, they're not only a sponsor, I'm a customer. Okay, so head on over to MoviesAreUSA.biz today. Use that checkout code ARTIST and get saving, man. And it's funny that I mentioned MoviesAreUSA.biz. Well, I mention them on every episode. But this is going to be a very movie-centric episode because a few years ago, or I would probably say about, not even a few years ago, about 10 years ago, I did a series of videos on YouTube titled Video Store Memories. For a cinephile like myself, going to the video store as a kid and upwards into an adulthood, going to the video store is very special. There's something very nostalgic about, being able to go to the video store, look at the boxes of the movies, and even sometimes when I wasn't even going to get anything. It was just nice to go and see what they had. And, so like, okay, next time I come, I'm going to get that movie and everything. So I figured, why not take you guys on a little journey of some of the video stores that I frequent and give you this, I wouldn't say a movie 101, so to speak, but just like my little journey of movies here. So first thing I actually want to talk about is like my dad. Believe it or not. A lot of people wonder why I don't talk about my dad that often, because he actually died back in 89. But my dad, huge movie guy. My dad was a huge a fan of the VCR, and I'm pretty sure if my dad was still alive today, he'd been all for Blu-ray and 4K and all this newfangled technology they come out with for, movies and everything. So VCR is real big, and one of the earliest memories I have with my dad is he apparently, he went to the video store frequently. He was there all the time. They knew him by name, all that good stuff. And he rented Return of the Living Dead, the Dan O'Bannon movie, and that was like one of the earliest movies I ever remember watching, which is pretty weird because probably wasn't age appropriate for that movie. Um, so, and a funny story with that, when my dad actually died, obviously the video store didn't know. They just thought he stopped coming in. So the video store sent my mom, or a phone call, one of the two, basically saying like, "Hey, he owes this much in late fees." So she sent them a check saying, "Hey, sorry, he died. Here's your money." And they sent back the check with a note saying, "I'm sorry." Because they didn't know. And plus my dad was in there all the fucking time. You know, and I don't remember the name of the video store, but I remember being in there a couple times and like just like I would have flashes of it. Like I remember seeing like the display for They Live, the ones that they would hang from the ceiling and shit. If you remember video stores, they would have like fancy displays and everything like that. I remember that. I remember when they had like the 2 VHS tape of Gone with the Wind in like the box and everything. Which, fun fact, like 30 some odd years or 20 some odd, I don't know, however many years later, I ended up buying that exact same thing just because I saw it in that video store. I think I still have it laying around here somewhere. Um, which that's when I lived in Virginia, and that same video store actually moved across the street from itself. And I remember this one time in the video store. I don't know what it was, but like Nightmare on Elm Street 2 was just released on video, VHS, and again, they had like the big cardboard cutout display and everything. And me and my sister, the one that like I don't really recognize as a sister anymore, but like I remember us looking at this display in the store, and we were just like severely creeped out by it, you know. It wasn't until years later that like I remember that it was a Nightmare on Elm Street 2 display. I think I like saw it on like eBay or something. I was like, oh my god, that's from my childhood. You know, that's all I pretty much remember really from video stores as a kid, because or like a really young kid, because I don't remember that much. Mm. Now as I grew up, um, we moved to a different part of Virginia, kind of in the same area, but kind of not. And we had a place called Movie Time. That was our local video store. I don't believe it was a chain, you know, but that was like our major video. So because I had actually had this in my notes for a little later, but we actually had Blockbuster, because Blockbuster been around since like what, late 80s. But Blockbuster to us back then was very expensive, whereas like Movie Time was very inexpensive, you know. So like going to Blockbuster, they better have something there that we really want. It was very rare that we went elsewhere other than Movie Time during that time. There was another place up the road we had called Video World, and their selection was a little bit bigger, but it was pretty uniform with Movie Time. I don't really have any like, oh my god, this one time at Video World type of stores. I just remember the color scheme was yellow and black. Um, and the only time I ever really remember getting anything there, I think that's when I saw the movie Death Becomes Her for the first time with what is it, Meryl Streep and Goldie Hawn? Is that it? I think that's it. And what's his name? Bruce Willis. Yeah, Bruce Willis. So that was, but just to let you know, we had options. And every now and then I would rent a video game from there. I think I no, you know what? No, I didn't. I rented a video game from there one time, and I think one time I had a really bad ear infection. Really bad ear infection. So like I think like on the way home from somewhere, me and my mom stopped there and we rented the movie Josh and Sam um, from Video World. So, but movie time was like, You know, like, oh fuck, man, if we get to go to movie time, man, shit, that made my fucking weekend, man. You know, because that's when I just started discovering, because I've been over this before, but when my sister was dating some guy, they were in the wrestling, so he recorded everything. WrestleManias, pay per views, Raw, Nitros when they started coming on. Um, but also at movie time, they also had their own wrestling section. So that's when I started catching up on stuff that I'd never seen before, like King of the Ring '94, WrestleMania 10. Like I remember renting WrestleMania 10 one weekend, and God, I damn near wore the tape out, because I watched it so many times. But in turn, that same weekend, I also discovered movies that like I never thought I would like Forrest Gump. If you would have told me one day that I would have liked the movie Forrest Gump, I'm like, bullshit. Same with Stand By Me, the Rob Reiner movie. You know, um, the funny thing about movie time is that like I really liked going there. And like I could still see that store in my fucking brain. The whole left side of the store was the new releases. Then they had a door next to the new releases. That was the adult section. I never got to go into the adult section for obvious reasons. Then right next to the adult, they had like a little nook. That was all the horror movies. Not a lot of horror movies there. Then they had their action and drama to the right of that. Then they had their video games in the center. Then they had their ones for sale next to that, like their new movies and stuff that come out. Then comedy and kids and so forth. So it was movie time is when I really started to discover a lot of movies I like The Goonies. The Goonies. If it wasn't for movie time, I would have never discovered the movie Goonies. Maybe until much later in life, because they had the movie The Goonies. And like that was something else. My mom like I think I was sick from school one day, and we stopped at movie time, and I ended up renting Wayne's World, and something else. I think a Power Ranger tape. When they used to release like certain episodes on VHS. And one of the things I used to always do when I would go there, like I would always find shit that was not in the right place, you know? And the people at this place, they knew our family and everything. And I would always go up to the counter. I'm like, I found this box not in the right place. I'm like, oh, thank you. Like every time I was there. One day I was there and like all the movies were off by one. Because it was like, it was kind of like the old school Blockbuster where like the box was in front of the tape. So like one day I noticed that like a box was in the wrong place, so I put it next to it. And then the next one was out. So like I went down like 20 movies and fixed the whole rack for these people. You know? So they were really cool about that. And also that's when I also got a Super Nintendo when movie time was around. So like I got to start renting video games. That's when I discovered games like Mortal Kombat. The Nintendo version, obviously, but still Mortal Kombat's Mortal Kombat. Um, and the Power Ranger games. Final Fight was another game I remember. You know what? I lied. I got Final Fight at Video World. I did not get that at movie time. Um, I know because like it was really like a toss up what I was gonna get. Am I gonna get a game? Am I gonna get a movie? Who knows? Just really depending on what I was gonna get. And um, it was it stayed open for a very long time. It was. I think it was. Oh God, when did I realize it was closed? I think it was like 2002, maybe, that I realized it was closed. It became Movie Gallery. Um, so that kind of sucked when because like I had so many like good memories there. Like I even bought Pogs at fucking movie time because like I was big into Pogs. I won a tournament one time for Pogs. That's how big into them I was. And like that Power Ranger Pogs, I remember being all jazzed because I had the Power Ranger Pogs and everything. I had the Slammers. They had like a display case uh, next to the check-in counter. And in the display case, they had like all the different Pogs that they had and everything like that. So I remember that when they got the Power Ranger ones, I was like, oh, I need a pack of these. So I got those and everything. Movie time was like essential childhood viewing for me. Like a League of Their Own. A League of Their Own is my favorite movie of all time, and probably if it wasn't for like either my mom renting it at movie time, probably never would have fucking heard of that movie, or probably never would have watched it until like eons later. You know, Like, I remember one time my mom was going out of town, so it was just gonna be me and my sisters at the house. So to keep me preoccupied, they let me go to the video store and get some movies. And I remember specifically getting A League of Their Own because I wanted to watch it again, and King of the Ring 1994, I believe. No, 93. Yeah, 1993 King of the Ring. Um, which, yeah, because 94 was when Mabel won it. No, it was 94. It was 94. It was 94. 95 was when Mabel won it. So, yeah. So, 95, and like that was like my weekend, going to the video store was something real big, at the time. So, and like, going back to Blockbuster, like I said, Blockbuster for us back then was expensive. Like, I mean, I'm pretty sure now it's expensive, but like back then for us to say, like, whoa, that's expensive, I mean, it was the early 90s, you know? But I remember there was a couple times where, like, Blockbuster was like a very special occasion. I remember one time I don't know what we were doing, but we were coming home from something, and the movie Street Fighter just came out on video. I almost said DVD. Wow. Now, again, we went to the theater every so often. Um, not like all the time, but we would go. Especially like if there was a movie I really wanted to see, like Power Ranger movie came out, had to go to the movie theater. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles came out, had to go to the movie theater. Goofy movie came out, Casper. Certain movies I'm like I have to go see this. It wasn't like, oh, that might sound good, so I'll go. It's not like today where I'm like, it's just something to do. You know, back then it was just like there better be something I really want to see in order to go. So so I missed Street Fighter in theaters, obviously. Um, so one night my mom, she was like, all right, we're gonna go to McDonald's. I was like, okay, cool. And she got me like a McNugget meal, maybe the kids meal, maybe the Happy Meal. I'm not for sure. I don't think it was a Happy Meal. Yeah, I don't think it was the Happy Meal. I think it was like a 6-piece nugget meal. Oh, excuse me. And we went to Blockbuster and she actually rented Street Fighter the movie for me. So like that was my fucking night. Like hell yeah, man. I remember sitting in front of the TV, popping in the Street Fighter movie that I haven't seen yet, and watching and eating my McDonald's and watching fucking Street Fighter, man. And like that was a good time for me, you know. I mean, like, and during that time, I was actually one of those, like, I would go outside and play type of kids. I know that's kind of hard to believe looking at me now, everything, but there was a time where I was one of those kids where I would go outside and play. Um, but, like, there was actually times where I'm like, man, I just want to sit and watch movies, man. Like, I just, again, I discovered so many movies when I wasn't age appropriate to be watching them. It's not even funny. Like, Hellraiser 2, A Fish Called Wanda. Um, what's another one? Probably I'd throw Clue in there because I probably wasn't age appropriate to watch that at the time. Wayne's World, which I mean, up until like God, I don't know, probably like 2000s, I was still finding jokes in that movie where I was like, oh, like wow, I really shouldn't have been watching this at the age I was. So, um, now we moved from Virginia and we went to Durham, North Carolina, and my mom actually worked at a department store. And this department store actually had a video section. Now, I didn't have this written in my notes, so I'm going by spontaneity here because I forgot about it till just this very moment. I actually have something else written in my notes, but my mom's department store had a video store, like they had a rental section inside, and like that was like cool to me, you know. So one day, my mom got tired of whoever was running the video section over there. She got tired of how it looked, like how the, you know, the this one, it was like one of those ones where like you got the empty box of the movie, you brought it up to the counter, they got the movie out from behind the shelf, rented it to you, and yada yada yada. So she wasn't liking how like the empty movie boxes were looking. She didn't like the disorganization of it. She didn't like any of that. So she wanted me to come in. And how old was I? None of your damn business. That's how old I was. So she wanted me to come in and rearrange it all. And I was like, well, what do you want me to do with it? She was like, rearrange it to how you want it. So I was like, wow, okay. So like I basically rearranged this whole movie section, movie by movie, you know. And again, that was another one where like, you know, movies, you know, again, movies. That was when like we started going to the theater a little bit more, you know, because then like when they came out on video, that was big. Because then I was like, oh fuck, I get to watch them again. Like I remember bugging my mom senseless to rent Vegas Vacation. Meanwhile, we went and seen it in fucking theater. You know, but like when it came out on VHS, I'm like, did you get Vegas Vacation? Did you get it? Did you get it? To the point where like I remember her like, yes, I got it. And she's shaking the tape on the phone so I can hear it and shit. Um, and another cool thing about that video section at my mom's department store is that like I would get off of work get off of work. I would get off of school and my mom would have to bring me to the department store. I was the department store kid. You know what I mean? Like I was everybody knew me. Everybody knew I was my mom's kid and everything. So, but in order to just keep me there and out of the eye and everything, they would literally shove me in the fucking security room. The security room at a department store where all the cameras are and everything like that. But they would set up one TV for me, where like I could just put in a movie into VCR and just watch shit. And I would do that all fucking day. And, you know, I was like the Phantom. You know, I'd only show up in the store to like get a drink or something to eat, and I'd disappear back into the fucking security room. You know, it was a really cool setup. But I remember watching like a lot of movies in there, man. I remember watching Royal Rumble '95 in there. This was like '97 though. I was watching Royal Rumble '95. I watched Mortal Kombat Annihilation. Oh God, I watched a lot of shit in that security room, you know. But down the same shopping block as that department store, they opened up a big, at the time, huge video store called Vistart. Vistart Video, Vistart. And at the time, I only went in there because they had a magazine section. It was like part magazine store, part video store, and everything. And like the magazines had wrestling magazines and shit. So I would mainly go in there and just read the wrestling magazines and everything. Because we didn't have cable when we lived in Durham. So like that was the only way I could keep up with wrestling and shit. So I eventually drifted on over to the video store and, you know, wow, this place was like huge. It had like a huge new release center, horror section, class. I mean, it was like one of the first like video stores I've ever seen with like subgenres. Like seeing a video store with a gay and lesbian section was so fucking new and beyond for me. You know, I was like, whoa. You know, like, cause like, you know, in Virginia when we had Blockbuster and Movie Time and everything, we just had comedy, drama, action, horror, new release. That's it. That's all you fucking had. You know, whatever fell into those categories, that's what you got. You know, whereas here at Vistart, you're getting new release, comedy, action, drama, gay and lesbian, film noir, independent, classics, romance. You know, they're doing all the subgenres and everything. That was like fucking mind blowing to me. You know? Plus, they had like a wider selection of movies that, you know, were unheard of at the time. I wouldn't say unheard of, but like, you know, plus on top of all that, right outside the Vistart, like you could literally walk outside the Vistart Video, walk about, I don't know, 200 feet, and there's the Blockbuster Video. So the selection at Vistart Video would have probably killed Blockbuster Video at the time. And I'm not just saying that because I have a special place in my heart for Vistart Video. That's probably the God's honest truth, you know? But like to the point where like I used to get on the Vista, like whenever I had to go to like to the department store with my mom, where she had to work and shit, I would just go down to Vistart Video. You know, I'm like, I'll be at the video store for a bit. Okay, to the point where like the people at the video store started to know me. You know, and we would rent there too, you know. Even though my mom's store had a fucking video department that we could, you know, technically rent for free. But like Vistart had a better selection. You know? It was to the point where like they're like, we'd let you work here if you were old enough. You know, because I was always like just hanging out with them. They knew me and stuff like that. To the point where like one day, oh God, what was the girl's name? That was so long ago, I don't remember. But she pulled out like this stack of fucking posters. It was like a thick stack of posters. and she was just like, "Hey, I'm getting rid of some of these posters. Do you want some?" I was like, "Yeah, that'd be great." And I was like, "How come you're not gonna use them?" She was like, we're supposed to hang them up, but we got nowhere to hang them up around here," which was true, because they had all those wire racks and everything. I was like, "Oh, okay, cool." So they gave me like poster upon poster upon poster, and it was wild. Like that's how well they knew me and everything. And plus, they also had like plus they were one of those like video store. It was technically a mom and pop store. Really, if you saw the size of it, you wouldn't think it was a mom and pop store because it was huge. Donald Trump, huge. But like they're also one of those ones like back in the day. Now, in order for me to, for you to get this, back in the days of mom and pop stores, when video companies would say, "Here, we want you to buy this tape or DVD for your store, we'll let you buy it at this price. Plus, we'll send you this with it." So it'd be like, just for example, Being the movie, with Rowan Atkinson. If you buy 10 copies of Being the movie for your store, we're also going to send you like 25 Being the movie buttons, and shit like that. Or like we'll send you posters. We'll send you 20 Being the movie posters and, stuff like that. That's how they would do that. We'll send you the POP, or I'm sorry, not the POP. The display. I'm sorry, I'm using the technical term. The cardboard display and everything. If you buy like X many copies for your store and everything, that's how they used to do it. It was kind of a dying art towards, like 2000 and everything. They would kind of still do it, but not really. But this store did it, man. And like all those like extra little goodies and stuff that the video companies would send them when they would buy X copies for their store and everything, they would put in like a display case they had by the entrance, and you put your receipt in. And every time so when you leave, you get a receipt. Obviously, it says due back this day. This is what you got. If you put your receipt in, every week they did a drawing, and when they draw your name, you get to pick anything from the fucking prize box. So it could be a Bean button, it could be fucking Scream poster, it could just whatever they got from the movie companies that they weren't using. Not one time did I ever fucking win that, and I did it every time we rented there. I'm like, give me the receipt, give me the receipt. I'm putting that in there, man. Because like I wanted to win. So because the Bean button, for example, was one of the ones I saw. I was like, oh, I want that button. And they just wouldn't give me one. Even though they saw me in there all the time and everything. This art video was also one of the first place that I ever saw a DVD without knowing what a DVD was. And I remember looking around the new releases one day, and in the center of it was kind of like a cube, so it was like a cube, and all the movies are around the cube, and in the center of the cube was this like oh man, kind of like a cart type of thing, and there was like there couldn't have been more than 20 movies on the damn thing. If there was more than 20, I've been shocked. I don't remember that well, but they were like in these snapper cases. Most of them were in the snapper cases because I think Warner Brothers was the first, real big adopter of the DVD format. But like I remember looking at these like DVD, like what is this? Like I had no idea what it was. I didn't look into it. We didn't have internet then. So like I didn't really do much research into it. I'm just like, what are these DVDs that Vistart is trying to rent and shit? Like I had no idea. It wasn't until years later I'd remember what the hell they were. So yeah, so like that was like actually the first the first few DVDs I remember seeing there. But I think Universal also was up on that too, because I remember I remember The Jerk being one of the DVDs there, because like the original snapper case of The Jerk is not one you see all the time. I remember Twister. Twister was actually the very first DVD, which fun fact. And a few others there. I remember a lot of them, or not a lot of them, I should say, but I remember those two for sure. And let's see here. Oh yeah, and also, a little side note here. They, like many movie stores, they sell your snacks and everything. This is the first time I ever tried Swedish Fish. Was because of Vistart Video. I never had Swedish Fish up until I went there. They had them there, and I was just like, "What are these?" My mom was like, "You never had Swedish Fish?" I was like, "No." She was like, "Oh man," so she gets a box, and like I tried them. I was like, "Wow, these are great." So that's when I was, introduced to Swedish Fish. Um, and I continued to go there for as long as possible. And then eventually my mom stopped working at that department store. So we were reduced to like this mom and pop shop near our house. And that wasn't good at all. I think we probably rented there like twice. And the only thing I really remember renting there was like a Gallagher tape. And even then, we would try and make our way up to Vistart because their selection was better. Because I remember one time, like, if you go back to the talent show episode where I did stand up comedy, I remember renting a bunch of stand up comedy tapes to get some ideas for jokes and everything. Because, like, that's what I did. I just, copy their jokes, for that talent show. Um, so like I would go get Gallagher. They had like a stand up comedy. So again, like it was unheard of for me to have like a stand up comedy section back then. Whereas like back in Virginia and everything, they just threw that shit in the comedy section. You know, so um, so yeah, Vistart was just a very special place for me because it was like the first time that like I actually built connections with like the staff and everything. They knew who I was, and they didn't mind me hanging around there. Like they knew if I was just in there just hanging out, they knew, even though you weren't supposed to, because like I think they were like one of the places that had a sign that like please no children under this age in here. But with me, they didn't really mind because they knew I wasn't going to bother anybody. So we eventually moved out of Durham, and we moved to another city called Youngsville, North Carolina, and we found our local video store there. It was called Premier's Video. Premier Video. Somebody's messaging me. We found it was Premier Video, and really nothing special. Like in terms of a video store type of place, they had your movies and games and stuff for sale, and everything like that. The only thing that really stands out that was really different about this place is that like now PlayStation 1 and 2, or not 2 at the time, I'm sorry, PlayStation 1 and I think Sega Dreamcast. I want to say that was around at this time. That's out around this time. So like the only thing that was really like different about this place, of course, you can rent the games. All right, and most video stores will let you rent the system if they had it available. Like, oh, we have a PlayStation 1 that you can rent for the weekend and da da da. This one would actually let you rent the strategy guide for the damn game. Like I remember me and Justice one time we rented no, we had the game WCW Nitro. But they had the strategy guide for rent for $2. And like we sucked ass at this game. So we're like, man, fuck, let's rent the strategy guide for $2. And we still sucked ass at the game. But we thought that was like so like unique that they actually had the strategy guide and everything. We thought that was like just wild. That was actually the first job I actually applied for, but I was in middle school at the time, so needless to say, I don't think they were going to hire me. Now, I think I may have talked about this before, but Justice, my friend Justice, is actually the one that really got me into DVD. I remember being over at Justice's house, and he rented 2 movies on DVD, The Wizard of Oz and Drowning Mona. And that was like the first time I've seen a DVD player in action. I've actually seen how they work, how, fucking, the special features. And I was like, holy shit, special features and shit? Because, like, I was entertained by that shit. I found that shit wild. So eventually got my own DVD player. And then Premieres was starting to get a DVD section. It was still mainly VHS, but they did have a DVD section. And the first DVD I ever rented, if you're ready for this, if you're ever curious about the first DVD I ever rented, Urban Legends Final Cut. So, yeah, mainly because it had like a gag reel, all this stuff on it, because I was really into special features. I was just like, wow, they put out all these movies on special features, which is why to this day, that like if a movie gets released on DVD or Blu-ray and it's just nothing on it, I just get pissed off. Because I'm just like, why? Why'd you even waste your time? you know. So and that's where I was able to really start expanding my collection, whether it came to VHS, because like the writing started to be on the wall for VHS right there. It wasn't quite dead yet, but like you could see that its final days were coming. You know, so like Premieres was ahead of the game on that one because they started just discounting their VHS tapes. You know, because I remember at one time used VHS tapes were like, 10 to $15. You know, but Premieres was ahead of the game. They're like, fuck this, $5. You know, and at the time that was a steal and a half for a VHS tape. You know, and then plus they did like, 5 for $20. Like, oh my god, dude, I was happier than a pig in shit. You know, plus being able to go there and rent stuff, man. I remember renting Blair Witch 2 the weekend it came out. I was again happier than a pig in shit. You know, because I went and saw it in theaters. Fucking loved it. So when it came out on video, I had to get it. You know, a couple other movies. Like, I think I discussed. My mom actually turned me on to a few movies because of Premiere's Video. It wasn't until years later, but it was because of her renting them at Premiere's Video is why I ended up watching them later. Like I Spit on Your Grave, The Last House on the Left, those two for sure. Just as mom slapped me in the middle of fucking Premiere's Video one time. His mom is, into Christ, So the movie Jesus was out with Jeremy Sisto. So I said real loud in the store, I was like, Jesus! And she doesn't like when you take the name in vain and everything. So I was like, Jesus! And she slapped me, like, ow! Like, what? She was like, don't say that. I'm like, that's the name of the movie. Like, Premiere is, kind of like a blip on the radar. In my, video store memories, but like still have some great memories there too. Rented some N64 games there. I remember me and my friend Carla, we rented Xena, which was a fighting game, which was wild for me at the time because like I'd never seen a four player fighting game before. That shit was wild, you know. So yeah, that's pretty much it for premieres there. The next one though. Now, I lived out in the middle of fucking nowhere in Youngsville. So, like, to get to premieres, that's a little bit of a, I wouldn't say it's a little bit of a drive, but, you waste some gas getting there, So, I lived in a town that was not that big, So, I saw one day that they were opening, like, right on my, 2 streets over from where I lived, that they were opening up a video store. Oasis Video. I'm like, no fucking way. There's going to be a video store right where I fucking live? Like, oh my God, I'm going to be in there all the fucking time. And boy, was I fucking right. They opened up this store, Oasis Video, and the first night I go there, I was like, man, that shit's open. My sister went and opened the account because I wasn't old enough to open the account yet. So I go up there, and I had a scooter and shit, like a Razor scooter. So I took my Razor scooter and shit up there. So pushed my ass up there. And I rented the movie Signs. And my sister put me on the account, so there was no problems and shit there. My sister would never go to that fucking store again after opening the account, man. It was just all me after that. So I rented Signs. And again, it was just, so I thought, it was the one where, like, you grab the movie, you go to the counter, they switch it out for the one in the back, and you're on your way. But I noticed they take the DVD box and they put it into a bag. I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. They let you take the box and shit too. That's pretty cool, man. So I'm scooting my ass home. I'm like, man, that's really cool and shit like that, So I get home. I go to my room. I open the disc and shit. Nothing's in there. I'm like, are you for real? So I scoot my ass all the way back up to Oasis Video. I was like, yeah, hey. So I got home and there was nothing inside this. They're like, oh my God, we're so sorry. Let me get that for you. So they give me that. Plus they give me a free rental. Which I was like, oh man, y'all don't have to do that, man. I live right down the road. They're like, no, take a free rental on us and everything, because they literally just opened. Like, it couldn't have been more than a week after this, So I was like, oh, okay, cool. So I went home, watched Signs, shit my pants at the Alien there. Came back the next day and rented something else. I don't even remember. To the point where like, okay, so now when I got off of school, I would go to the video store, return whatever I had, and rent something else. Now, but here's the thing though. The return time for one-day rentals at the video store was like 2:00. And I didn't get home from school until like 3:30, So to the point where like they knew it was coming in. So like they extended the fucking, late fee for me. You know, where I'm just like, hey, I'm sorry, I'm late. They're like, oh, it's okay, don't worry about it. Well, they knew who the fuck I was. To the point where one day I literally walked in and the owner was there. The owner's name was Ken, and I walk in. Ken's like working on this clock that he's installing and everything. So they had like one of them, bing, bing when you walk in. So I walk in, bing, bing, and he turns around and sees me. And again, he's working on a clock. Maybe the batteries weren't in yet or something, but bing, bing. I walk in and he's like, oh crap, 4 o'clock already, huh? And I'll be damned, it was 4 o'clock. Because I got home and got, situated and everything. And then I started taking my bike up there. I took my bike up there to get something. Um, I was like, they said, other than the 2 workers who mainly worked there, I was the number one renter. Nobody else rented as much as me, and I kind of took some pride in that. I did, however, get a young woman fired there for a very good reason. Well, I didn't intend to get her fired, but here's what happened. So they were looking for somebody to work there, and I was just like, I can work here. And they're just like, they knew I was moving in like June. So they're just like, Will, we're not going to hire you just so you can leave in June. I was like, man, come on. They're like, we can't, Will, we're sorry. I was like, all right, fine. And I knew everybody there. I knew Ken, Dasha, Kay, Keith. I knew them all, you know? So one day I come in and there's a new girl there. I don't know who she is. She's behind the counter. She has like her little daughter with her and shit. So I'm like, okay, cool. Right on. Came in at like my usual time, 4 o'clock and shit. Now they had deals throughout the whole week. So like Monday it was like, get a new release, get 2 new releases for the price of 1 or something like that. Tuesday was get a new release, get an older release for free. So I could come in and get like the newest Harry Potter movie and get like fucking, Armageddon for free, stuff like that. So I come in one day and I forgot what movie I was getting new. I was getting a new movie, but I was like, I'm going to take advantage of the fucking, get one free. I mean, fuck, it's free, right? And I think at this point I've already seen Mr. Deeds. But I was like, fuck it, I'm going to get Mr. Deeds, It's in the old section now. So I get the new movie, I get Mr. Deeds. I go up to the counter and she was like, okay, your name? And I was like, oh, they didn't tell you who I was? And she did not find that amusing at all. And I was just like, oh, okay. I told her my sister's name because it's under her account. And I was like, my name's Will. I'm on the account. And she goes, oh, okay. And she gives me the total, which was like, $8 or something. I was like, oh no, it's a rent one, get one free day, And she was like, you got both new ones. I was like, no, I got Mr. Deeds from over here in the old section. And she was like, yeah, but we just got that in. I was like, yeah, I know, but it was over here in the older section. And she was like, yeah, but we just got it in. Even her daughter was trying to butt in and say, yeah, but mom, it was over there. And she was like, shh, be quiet. And I was just like, okay. So I just paid for the shit. I didn't feel like dealing with it. So I just paid for the shit and went home. I knew at 6 o'clock, Dasha was coming in. Dasha was one of the other girls that worked there and shit. I didn't really like the way that woman was talking to me and shit. So I called Dasha. Nobody answers the phone. I was like, that's weird, So I go to get on dial-up internet. Shows you how old this is. I get on dial-up internet. As I'm trying to get on dial-up, my connection gets interrupted. It's Dasha calling me back. And I was like, hello? And she was like, Will? I was like, hey, Dasha. And she was like, hey, what's up? And I was just like, hey, I just wanted to let you know about something that happened there today. And she was like, why? What? She was concerned. She was like, what happened? And I told her what happened and everything. And she was just like, okay, we'll just, like, come up and get the movie that you intended to get. Because, like, I ended up getting it. Oh, no, that's what it was. Okay, wait a minute, back up. I didn't get Mr. Deeds. I ended up getting the movie Swim Fan because that was older. And I've already seen Swim Fan. I just got it just so I get the free one and shit. So she was like, okay, just come up and get the one you want. I'll take care of you. I was like, all right, thanks, Dasha. I appreciate it. So I come up there with Swim Fan in my hand. And I go grab Mr. Deeds. And I come up to the counter. And she's like, you're taking care of Will. I was like, you sure? And she was like, yeah, you're fine. I was like, okay, here. And I handed her a Swim Fan. She was like, no, hold on to that one too. I was like, Dasha, I've already watched it. She was like, just go ahead. Hold on to it for a bit. I was just like, okay. All right, cool. Like, they took care of my ass and shit. Like, I was just like, damn, man. here's the PS to the story. So, like I said, every day I was in there. So I got off the bus, went in my house, got my movies, took off my school shit and everything, and took my bike, went on up to the video store. I walk in, and I know that new girl's going to be there. And I walk in, and one of the main girls there is Kay. That was her name, Kay. And I see Kay there. I see Kay and Ken. And Ken was like really obsessed, was like putting in fucking ice cream in this video store for some reason. I don't know why. I think that led to one of their downfalls, but whatever. Anyway, he's sawing like the fucking hole in the side of the fucking wall so he can like, so you have like an ice cream wall and shit. I'm like, whatever, dude. So anyway, I walk in and I see Kay there and I hand her my movies. And she was like, how you doing? I was like, good. And I walk over and that was the girl's name, Melissa. That was her name. So I just said out loud to Ken, I was like, so, where's Melissa at? Ken looked me dead in the eyes and was just like, fired her. I was just like, oh. I was like, why? And they were just like, I didn't like the way she was treating people. I was like, oh, damn. Okay, cool. So either it was just that interaction with me or I wasn't the only one who made a call within that day that she worked there. But yeah, Oasis Video was like another one that just like, I don't know, holds a special place, Mark. It was a very small video store. They didn't have a lot to choose from and everything. But like, again, that was another place I kind of like really broadened my horizons. I was watching shit that like I normally wouldn't watch, like 2 Week Notice with Sandra Bullock and Hugh Grant, and plus they would special order shit for you. If you would just say, hey, I want a special order that, they special order it for you, man. Like I got a copy of Wait Until Dark on VHS there. I got both SmackDown 1 and 2 on PlayStation. Great fucking store, man. I really wish, like, the fall of the video store wasn't on the horizon, because it was a great store. They had a great crew there, minus that one bitch. Yeah, they were fantastic. I fucking love that store more than anything. And plus, like, when I left, they were trying to sell posters. They like had all the posters from movies and everything, and they were selling them for like $5 a piece. And I bought one, but they're just like, yeah, they're not really selling. I was like, what are y'all gonna do with them? And they're like, yeah, we're just gonna throw them away. I was like, well, hey, I'm moving to Texas, as you guys know, and like, if y'all don't mind, I'll take them off your hands if y'all just want to give them to me. And they're like, which ones? I was like, well, I mean, I'll take all of them if you want. And they're like, okay, let me call Ken, So Kay, she calls Ken. Ken's like, yeah. Ken said, go ahead and take them. I was like, really? They're like, yeah, go for it. I was like, fucking hey, man. So I had like 90 posters. Like, if you look in old videos of me in Houston, that's why I have so many posters in my room. Is because of Oasis Video. Because they gave me all those posters. Like 90% of those posters in that video came from Oasis Video. Great group of people there. I wish I could still get in contact with those people because they were fantastic. I was like the real last great video store experience I had. Because then eventually I would work for Blockbuster, and you can go listen to the podcast episode on that and, hear how that fucking worked out. And, the one that I didn't make a video about, and I guess I can talk about it a little bit, was a Family Video. The last remaining, like, video store, essentially, minus the Blockbuster in Bend, Oregon here. But Family Video, when I moved to Illinois, I was like, man, I really wish there was like a DVD store or media store or something nearby. And we're driving around, trying to get in the lay of the land. And we drove past a Family Video. And I was like, fucking hey, man, right on. And what I really like about Family Video is that they put a lot of shit on sale. So it'd be like, oh, this weekend, man, like fucking everything that's $5.99 is now $3.99. Shit like that. So I really like that they would put on sale. Plus, if you caught the right person on the right day, if you just went to him and said, here, could you possibly sell me this off the shelf? If you caught him on the right day, you could probably do it. Like, I remember picking up Fahrenheit 9/11 for like $5 because, they just sold it to me right off the shelf, and I actually applied at Family Video. This is no joke. Hold on. I applied to work at Family Video 5 times. And I only did it because I was like, well, let me strike that. I applied to work there 3 times, and 2 times they called me just for interviews. So the first 3 times I applied, they called for interviews. They're like, hey, thanks for coming in. Whatever. The fourth time, I get a call one time. They're like, "Hi, this is whoever from Family Video. We were just calling to see if you'd be interested in an interview." I'm like, "What the hell? Like, I didn't even." Okay, yeah, sure. Because I was in between jobs at the moment. So yeah, sure. So I come up, have the interview with the person. The interview was like 2 minutes long because they were doing open interviews as well. So anybody who wanted to come in and have a fucking interview and shit, they could. So it was just basically like, "Hi, what's your name? How you doing today? Okay, see you later." That's pretty much what the interview was. The fifth time I get a fucking call from them, you know, I called, or they called me, and they're just, "Hi, could you come in for an interview today?" And I was just like, "Okay, listen, I really appreciate the phone call. I do. But I've interviewed with you guys 4 times now, and every time it's the same song and dance. I come in, y'all interview me, and then y'all send me on my way. Like, there's only so many times I'm going to keep coming up there, you know?" And she's like, "No, but I really like what I see on your application. I'd really like you to come in." And I said, "All right, fine. I'll come in." So I go up there, and, I meet the girl and everything. And thankfully, it was the girl who actually called me, you know? And we talked for a few minutes, and she was like, "Okay, well, I'll give you a call." Okay. She actually calls me a few days later, and she's like, "Okay, I'd like you to come in, and you have to take I should say, you had to take a test at Family Video to, advance, I guess. It was kind of like a fucking tournament almost to get this job. But the test that you had to take was fucking wild. They're like, "Okay, here's a packet. We're going to give you this much time on the clock. Answer as many questions as you can. Go." And it was questions like, "What's 3 4/8 times 1 7/8?" And it's like, who the fuck knows that without using a calculator or off the top of their heads? And I'm just like, what the fuck, man? It wasn't like customer servicey questions. Like, what would you do in a situation if a customer decides to pull out a knife? Like shit. Like, it wasn't stuff like that. It was like dumbass math questions. Only like Einstein could probably do off the top of his head. You know, so like I'm trying to do as many of these fucking questions as possible. Da-da-da, da-da. She says the time's up. I was like, okay. Hand in the paper. And she was like, "Does anybody have any questions for me?" And nobody says anything. I actually pulled her aside. I was like, "Can you do me one favor?" And she does, "What's that?" I was like, "If I don't make it, can you please just call and tell me?" And she was like, "Yeah, I can do that." And I'll be damned. She called. She called me a few days later, and she was like, "Hey, I just want to give you a call and say, hey, we're not going to be moving forward." I said, "Okay, cool, but can I ask you something?" And she was like, "What's up?" And I was just like, if for some reason I make it that far again, do we get to use a calculator on that part? And she was like, "No." I was like, "Okay, cool. And what did you need to pass it?" She was like, 80. And I was like, "What did I get?" She was like, 67. I was like, "Fair enough. All right, well, thank you for your time." um, and when I finally moved to Iowa, we had 2 Family Video locations, which eventually became 1 Family Video location. And it closed down. That's when they all decided to go out of business. And like I picked up a lot of great shit there, half of which I never fucking watched. I eventually ended up selling it. Um, but like the final days they were open, they were selling everything for $1. So I was picking up like fucking old movies for like $1 and everything. Um, but it was like it was like the last beacon of a fucking actual video store where you get to go in somewhere, fucking look at the backs of the movies and like, oh, I don't know if I want to watch that, and look at something else. I mean, like that's the shit I miss. I mean, like scrolling through a fucking endless loop of fucking movies on Netflix is just not the same. You miss that feeling of just walking into a store and like looking at the candy laying there, or like fucking, seeing what the new releases are, and like seeing if maybe there's a deal in the used movie section and everything. It's just not the same when you go on Netflix or Prime and just scroll that shit and everything. It's not the same. And don't get me wrong, I use it. I'm not a barbarian. I'm not just gonna be like, "That's it. I'm only going to video stores from now on." Like, fuck, find one. You know. I mean, I'll use that service, obviously, but it's just it'll never compare to like the video store. You know what I mean? Like the video store was what it was all about. So yeah. So there you have it. That is the story that you didn't ask for this week. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this week's episode. I'm still trying to get a hold of Justice, man. He's fucking playing phone. He's playing phone hooky or something, man. He's pissing me off. But hopefully you guys enjoyed this week's episode. Until next week, guys, I'm the ArtistVersion1, and remember, be breezy.